Ben last week said that his arm felt especially live, and that perhaps not throwing all week was something that he was going to talk to you about again. Have you had that conversation, and are you willing to allow him to sort of forego throwing at practice a few days?
We did have that conversation. I'll acknowledge it was a very brief one, and I'll see him at practice on Thursday.
I love it. It's still not clear whether or not Ben Roethlisberger was joking when he said, hey, I didn't practice last week. Let me not practice this week. He already gets Wednesdays off.
Yes.
That's why Tomlin said, I'll see him on Thursday. So implicit in the response was the idea that Ben's already held to a lesser standard than everyone else. Every week on the injury report for Wednesday, Roethlisberger, Ben, did not practice.
Right.
Rest.
Right.
It's never injury related. It was last week though with the knees, and he was on the COVID-19 reserve list. But it worked out well. But they still want Ben to practice at least a couple of times a week, Chris. I mean, we all need to practice, no matter how long we've been doing something. And I still don't know whether or not he was joking. I have a feeling if he had the opportunity to not practice every week, he would take it.
I doubt it. I think he's the type of guy where, he might not be the perfectionist maybe we see out of other Hall of Fame type quarterbacks, right? At least he doesn't come off that way to me. I don't know about you, but he doesn't seem like he's quite type A, obsessive, compulsive, maybe like a Brady or a Brees or something like that. Now, when I worked in New England, Brady got Wednesdays off too. It's very common, for that type of quarterback or player that late into their career. But Big Ben has a reputation that way, a little bit, of being a diva. And I do think he's a guy he's just not stressed about it. I think he goes, I was put on earth to throw a football. One thing, you just put it in my hand, I'll be ready to go on Sunday. I just need to get out here and learn what we're doing. And, they bring that blitz and all that. Throwing, no problem. I don't even worry about that. I really feel like that's his attitude. I go back to last year when I visited him at training camp. So what are you doing throwing in the offseason? I don't throw in the offseason. What? I just couldn't believe that answer. Still to this day, I'm shocked by it.
And that's where he's got a lot in common with Brett Favre. Favre hated all of the practices. He hated the offseason, and he wanted to play in the games.
Right.
And you've got the other end of the spectrum where Peyton Manning loved everything about it. Tom Brady loves everything about it, wants to be involved in everything about it. Every practice, every workout. We'll have more workouts beyond what we're supposed to do. Let's work out. Let's get ready. Let's work. Let's do it. And Roethlisberger's attitude is, let's just go play football. It's just football. And there's a middle ground there somewhere, maybe, where it's not this all-consuming obsession that overtakes your life. But I don't know. Brady's got 6 rings, so maybe the way to be truly successful at the highest level is to let it become an obsession that takes over your life. All right, quarterback injuries, and the most important one, Drew Brees, getting a second opinion to determine if he needs to go on injured reserve. Chris, my assessment, and tell me if I'm wrong, not that you need an invitation to do so, my assessment when a player gets a second opinion is he didn't like the opinion that he got from the team doctors, whatever that opinion may be. No, he doesn't like it.
100%. I mean, you don't really hear that a lot with NFL football players. I mean, you don't, because, you've talked about it before. We've had this discussion. Usually the NFL team in that city has the best doctor in the city to be there and be the guy that takes care of the football team and all of that. So, listen, throwing shoulder, ribs, all those things, maybe he's being extra careful. But, yeah, I lean towards more of what you're saying. He didn't like what he was told. What I think is peculiar, Mike, or what I would like to know is just, did he not like what he was told in an aggressive way or in a non-aggressive way? You know what I mean? Did they tell him, hey, we think you need to sit out a little longer? And he went, I don't like that. Let me go see someone else that might tell me I'm back quicker. Or was it the other way around where he went, wait, they're saying I might be able to come back this week, and I don't feel that normal. There's no way. This is really bothering me. Maybe I need to see another doctor. That's where I'm interested to know which way we are there.
Based on the aggressive way that he was performing his thumb exercises last year during his absence, my guess is he wants to get back on the field no matter what. And I think he's desperate at a minimum to reverse the perception that was created on Sunday that he tapped out and could have kept going, right? And Sean Payton did him a favor by making it clear, look, we've been together 15 years. This is the first time this has ever happened. He truly couldn't go. I think that it bugs him at some level that he was there in uniform. He played the first half. He kept playing after he took that hit. I think football players want to be.
It's hard.
It's tough.
It's the hardest thing to do.
It's like it's not about us. It's about the other guys who play football. Remember when Cam Newton was having his struggles? He said, "Yeah, you hear it from the coaches, but also they look at you differently in the locker room. Guys talk." I think that may be influencing Drew Brees to create the impression he's trying to get back as soon as he possibly can, and that maybe the team is saying we need to shut you down for a few weeks.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at that. It is hard to say I can't go anymore when you're in the football uniform and you can run and do some of those things, right? But you can't do, as far as a quarterback's concerned, the number one thing you need to do to be a successful quarterback. It's hard to say no to that. I separated my shoulder actually against New Orleans once, and, man, it was hurting me so much, and I couldn't throw the ball 10 yards. I was this close to still saying, I can go, coach. I was going to just screw the team over and go, I can go. It was my first start ever. But I knew, I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't do this to myself, and I can't do it to the team. And then, of course, with my spleen incident, I wasn't coming off the field. I wasn't tapping out. I could still throw, coach. I'm breathing. The hell with it. Let's go. It's hard. But, Drew, I can sit here and tell you nobody has got that perception about you as tapping out. Nobody. I mean, I will defend you to the day you die in that one. He is tough as hell. He wants to be out there. He's got Brady breathing down his neck for all-time touchdown pass record. He doesn't want any of that he doesn't want to lose that. There's no way he doesn't want to play right now. So people are crazy if they question Drew Brees' toughness that way.
I'm not saying they are.
No,
I'm saying that that's something that he would be worried about.
I know.
No one is questioning his toughness.
I know.
I think that he's getting the second opinion because he's got Sean Payton and he's got the Saints doctors saying you need to go on into reserve for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's Brees saying, no, I want to be carried on the roster because I think I could be back in 1 week. And when you look at the upcoming 3 games, the Saints probably think they can win them without him, and let's let this guy get healed so he's 100% or close to it for the stretch run.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And that's where, Mike, I was going to ask you, do you think, again, Drew, I think, is a very self-aware guy. He understands his standing in the history of football and all those things. I feel like he also he'd be thinking about, man, I don't want the backup to come in again for the second year in a row and go 3-4-4-0 without me. It's not a great look, even though we all know there's more to it than one guy or anything like that. But, people do look at Teddy Bridgewater last year and go, well, they went 5-0. They were still really good when he was in there. And I'm sure he hates that aspect of it too. And that's what's hard as a competitor. You don't want to start up those type of conversations.
Remember back in week 1, the first Sunday of the season, when the Saints were hosting the Buccaneers. It was Brady versus Brees for the first time in the same division. 4 or 5 different reporters had some version of the idea that the Saints were interested in Brady even after Brees committed to playing again. I think Brees knows that at some level of that organization, someone is thinking the time has come to push him away on an iceberg and move on.
Right.
And remember when Sean Payton in the offseason let it slip that this is Brees last year?
Yeah.
And then he had to come back and say, oh, wait a minute, I misspoke. He didn't misspeak.
Yeah.
He didn't misspeak. This is last year.
Right.
So that's part of what he's fighting back against, too. And it's all normal. It's all natural. It's human. When you've been doing something as long as you've done it, no matter what you may have set up for when you retire, your identity continues to be professional football player. And the idea that you have to stop playing professional football while you still have 25 to 30 to 40 years of productive life left where you can do something, you just can't do that. It's got to be tough.
Yeah.
It's got to be tough. It's got to be agonizing. It's got to be the kind of thing that just makes you sick to your stomach all day long. So he wants to get back and play. He doesn't want the Saints to come to the conclusion they don't need him, and I can understand it completely. Nick Foles, day-to-day with a hip gluteus injury, far less serious than it looked when he was just kind of laying there motionless on Monday night after he hit the ground hard late in the loss to the Vikings and ultimately was carted off. I thought he wouldn't be back all year. He may be back for Week 12, Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers because they're on a bye this week.
Yeah, well, and like they might really need him, right, too? Because we don't. Where's Mitchell Trubisky at and his injury and where he's at there? And then they'd have to rely on Tyler Bray, who we saw at the end of the game, who hasn't really played NFL football, so that would be scary. I'm glad to hear that about Nick Foles. I really am. I mean, it seems more like anything. He fell hard on that right back, hip, butt, all that area. And then that way he kind of bent backwards. I was just watching it again last night on a highlight show where Man, it looks like he almost like spasmed as I watched him there laying, like it all locked up, like in some funny movie where you see the old guys like back lock up and he can't move. I mean, that's really what it kind of looked like. And just from a quarterback standpoint, the one thing I'll say, it looked like it was it's right hip, right butt. For a righty quarterback, that's your push leg. I would say that's better than having it on your left leg, where the leg you have to turn and twist into, to where that might make it a little easier for him to get back and get going too. But glad it's not serious for Nick Foles.
I used to say about Jeff George, he had arm by NASA and body by Lego. I don't know that Nick Foles has arm by NASA, but he definitely has body by Lego, and I think that's why. And that's I have tremendous respect for him standing in there and taking the abuse he does.
Yes.
That is a long, lanky human being who is going to get injured. You just have to accept it. It's going to happen. He doesn't have that thick build. He doesn't have that instinct for avoiding contact or falling in a way or absorbing contact in a way that minimizes contact.
Nor does he have an offensive line or a pass protection plan, so that's not helping.
That makes it even more brave
right.
to stand in there because he knows it's coming. Drew Lock, potential franchise quarterback, but at the same time, he can't stay healthy. And I don't want to say much about the situation because the Broncos, in my mind, are done. They're done. It's over. The question is, after this season, what happens?
Yeah.
Is Locke the guy for next year? Does Vic Fangio stay? And at what point, if ever, does the spotlight of accountability shine on the guy who keeps hiring coaches and finding quarterbacks that aren't allowing the Broncos to break this cycle of losing, Chris?
Yeah, no, I hear you, Mike, and this is an important time for Drew Lock. Drew Lock, we hit on it a little yesterday, I believe, but he's got talent. He really does. His arm is special. He's a good athlete, all those things. But, yeah, health has been an issue, and decision-making has been an issue. Way too aggressive. Really, these go hand in hand, too, because he holds the ball too long consistently waiting for big plays. He's got to learn to live to fight another play, live to fight another day, get the ball out of your hands. Not every throw has to be a 25-yard completion. And within that, you'll play better quarterbacking, let alone you won't get hit as much. He's taken too many big shots, too, because he's always looking for the big throw, and he stands in there, and I give him a lot of credit, but he's beating himself up. And then a lot of the times, yeah, you give him your credit for standing in there, but the guy's not open. So don't stand in there anymore. Check it down, get it out. He's really got to learn that aspect. It's a little polish to his game, certainly is needed, and that's why I don't want him to miss time. He needs to play the end of the season here. He needs it so they can evaluate him, and he needs it to get better himself.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.